This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring former FBI Special Agent and Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Robin Dreeke.
Every single day, we talk about the case of Rex Heuermann, the alleged Long Island serial killer. It gets a little more crazy, and this week was not anything different than what we've seen. Very par for the course. Everything from 50 Cent being involved in their lives now with a documentary, all the way to becoming pen pals with the happy-faced killer. Yes, the happy-faced killer is now a pen pal of Rex Heuermann. We even have the letter to read and take a look at. This I don't know. I mean, this seems to me like something out of a movie. Most of this has felt like it's out of a movie. But Keith Jesperson reaching out and trying to give advice to Rex Heuermann, and then Rex being very appreciative. I think I counted him saying thank you at least 6 times in that short 2-page response. It didn't feel like it was coming from someone who felt very innocent at all. It felt more like, oh, you got me. That's what I was taking out of it. Robin Dreeke, retired FBI special agent, joining us to discuss. What was your feelings on that new pen pal relationship that Rex has going on?
You know, with Heuermann, we don't actually have to try to find things to talk about. He gives us more things to talk about, like you said, every day, every week. Mm-hmm. This is one of them. I mean, you can't predict what some of these people are going to do. So as with all these things that you and I talk about, Tony, I kind of start off with what I do first after I read or see something. And the first thing I did was I looked up how common is it for serial killers to correspond? Because that really struck me. That is really weird and odd.
Yeah.
And it is extremely rare. The BTK killer corresponded with Jeffrey Dahmer. Mm-hmm. So I found that to be interesting. And then Manson and then John Wayne Gacy, known as the Killer Clown. That's pretty much it. There's been it's a very rare occasion. And so that's the first thing that struck me. Then the second thing that struck me, as you highlighted, was he was appreciative of the advice. Mm-hmm. From a convicted serial killer. That's interesting. But the thing that even strikes me more is here is a very highly educated guy. I mean, he's a Manhattan architect, works in a big firm. It doesn't look like he's hurting for money with his gun collection. I can't even imagine how much that thing's worth. And so here's an instance where someone that comes across, especially with his background in education, what people are saying is a very confident, arrogant kind of guy. He turned away, admittedly, to the happy face killer. He turned away every single letter and LDP or correspondence that people want to have with him. But the one he actually listened to is from a convicted serial killer. Mm-hmm.
In the letter itself, he says, I've received letters from this person and that person, but you are the only one I want to reply back and forth with. What does that tell you?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't help them. If most of these things, because we talk about them, it goes to the court of public opinion. Yeah. It does not help him in the court of public opinion.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. It's because it's so rare, you kind of get flabbergasted by it. Things I have to look up I have to look it up because it's rare. We don't see it that often.
I mean, it starts to make you want, have others gone on that we are unaware of like this? I mean, it's a very small club when you break it down as far as people who would be able to relate to one another in that sort of a situation. Jesperson advised Heuermann in some of the letters to admit guilt if he's guilty, reflecting on his own personal experience and legal process, basically saying, don't put your family through this, don't put yourself through this, don't put the victims through it. If you did it, just do it. They're going to get you. And I don't know, Jesperson seems like an interesting character. He was just admitted, I believe, to an 8th victim not that long ago, or was convicted of it. And his daughter actually is the other individual who reached out to Asa Ellerup. And this is the one who helped create that GoFundMe page initially for Asa at the very beginning. We didn't really know a whole heck of a lot, trying to relate, saying, look, I've been in this situation before. My father was accused of this, was convicted of this. It's very few people there, are in that club of having a father or a loved one who's been convicted of something like this. So, I think it's admirable on the surface if Asa has nothing to do with any of these things, and certainly admirable on the part of Jesperson's daughter for doing that, because I think she did it with pure and good intent. But it seems like that's how the relationship may have been started, by daughter of Jesperson. And then all of a sudden, hey, maybe dad should write a letter to old Rex here. I don't know. You can't make it up. And where this goes, I don't know. It's really very shocking. One of the things Heuerman wrote back says, "Thank you for your letters and advice. They have been a help and comfort to me. I do understand what you have said, and I have taken it to heart," just as you have said as well.
I'm rooting for the happy face killer. He's trying to advise him to confess. Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
And, when it comes to motivations, so Happy Face Killer, he's on podcasts, and so he's getting notoriety by doing these things and grandiosity, and so it kind of plays into that whole serial killer modus operandi. Yeah. And to get himself in the spotlight by reaching out to Heuerman. So his behavior is not striking, and the striking behavior is Heuerman's during this. It would have think about this. It would have been better for Heuerman to even say, "I get a lot of letters. I do my best to correspond and reply to everyone." Yeah. But he said, "No, I turn everyone down, but you.
You're the one I want to hear from."
And it would have been better too. So here's where he could have done a better job. Boy, hope he doesn't hear this, because you don't want to give him advice. It would have been better. "Hey, I really appreciate what your daughter has done for my wife. That's why I'm responding to say thank you."
There was no mention of that in the letter whatsoever.
Which says a lot by not what people say, but what they don't say. As we're just analyzing Murdaugh about what he said, he was all self-centered and self-focused. And we got the same thing going on here, where this was him, not anything about how he was destroyed by this whole thing, or his wife was. It's just a mess.
How's the butter in federal prison? Because it sucks in state. Literally part of the letter.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free,
so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.